Hi, welcome back to the Stirling Business Podcast from Studio King Street. Today, Mark Wallace is here to interview me and ask questions about King Street Aparthotel, which is a business that we have here that's been trading for about a year in number 45 King Street in Stirling. So, Mark, how are you?
I'm all right. Thanks for inviting me again.
You're more than welcome. You're becoming a permanent fixture here these days.
I know, and the coffee's really good. You have to tell me where you get the beans from.
I will.
Another time.
I can tell you as part of this episode because it's very relevant.
Is it? Well, I'll tell you what, we'll get on because we're talking about Aparthotel. And my first question is straightforward. How did it come about and why?
So it's part. The King Street Aparthotel is part of a development. We have about 20,000 square feet of space here in number 45 King Street. And it's predominantly kind of made up of 4 businesses now. It was originally 2. We had the Aparthotel, which I'll talk a bit more about, and Working Flexi Spaces, which is our business centre and co-working hub. We've since added Studio King Street, which is the recording studio that we're set in now, and our events business. So we have 4 businesses within the building, but specifically the Aparthotel. I was in the serviced accommodation business prior to taking on this venture. And I like the idea of, providing hospitality, high-end, boutique-level hospitality to the discerning traveller, if you like, who has a choice of where to stay. So we originally had some flats, not too far from here that I used to kind of, they were done up pretty nicely and I rented out on a per night type basis. So that gave me the kind of the bug, if you like, to do something a bit more scalable. But I wanted the location to be more city centre centric and an area that wasn't, had some gaps in the market in terms of a need. But secondly, an area that wasn't overpopulated like Edinburgh and Glasgow, such as Stirling. So what is an Aparthotel? Okay, it means many things to many people. So one extreme, it could be like my serviced accommodation I used to have, where you have a full facility with a kitchen, cooking facilities for the guests to use, as well as laundry, linen capabilities to do their washing if they're there for more than one night, for example, multiple days. The other extreme, you have a full service hotel. So we're in a city centre here. There's lots of full service hotels where you have an on-site bar, an on-site restaurant. You could probably get your dry cleaning and things like that done as well at that facility. We're neither of those. So what we are is something that is more akin to a hotel room. It has limited facilities. We do have like a kitchenette area, but no cooking facilities within our suites. And if you want dry cleaning, we can facilitate that with some local partners. We don't have a bar, we don't have a restaurant, but we can facilitate that by working with a lot of the local businesses that are on our doorstep. We can help provide breakfast, we can help provide dinner, but they're all separate businesses and they're not part of our establishment. So that's how we define an Aparthotel.
Well, fortunately, I've been in an Aparthotel before. And you mentioned Edinburgh and Glasgow, and that's what you're going to see them. You're going to see them in places like Edinburgh. So I've seen this model work. In fact, I'll tell you what it was. It's Frederick Street Hotel in Edinburgh on Frederick Street. They do the same idea as you. So I thought about how nice that was, and I've had a look around your rooms, and yeah, it's more than a hotel, isn't it? I mean, these rooms are on par with your big city hotels, which is unusual, no disrespect, but you don't normally get that quality in a small city like Stirling. What made you go to that extra level with the quality?
So a lot of it was down to feedback. Any good business starts with good market research. So, talking to VisitScotland, talking to tour operators, we'll come on to what our demographic and what our markets are. But a big part of our market is international tourism. Okay, and what we were finding from talking to some of these tour operators and some of the, institutions like Visit Scotland with that, people were coming to Stirling, significant amounts of visitors coming to Stirling, almost 5 million visitors a year. these are 2024 figures, were coming to Stirling. But international overnight tourism, 580,000 nights were booked in 2024, bringing about £188 million worth of revenue into the Forth Valley. Okay, Stirling's obviously a big part of that. But what we were finding is that a lot of travellers from our research were coming for the afternoon, going to visit the castle, weren't staying overnight. The reason for that was that the feedback, one of the main reasons was lack of quality accommodation.
That makes sense. And I've had a little bit of an insight into the tourist industry, and people coming from America and places like this, I'll say America, are coming for 2 or 3 weeks. They're on a tour of Europe. Now they're stopping in some real classy hotels on that tour. So yeah, they're looking for something just a little bit special. And you offer that.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've provided, we think we've provided, and the feedback, certainly for our reviews, kind of tells us that we've provided a quality product. So we've gone boutique. We never would use the word luxury in any of our marketing material, because we would classify that as a full service hotel, you know, the Ritz-Carltons of this world and things like that. But we've gone for a very particular finish, very high-end boutique. We've kept the heritage features. We're in a listed building, so we've retained the traditional cornice, you know, around the ceilings, and we've brought back a lot of those kind of features, which the Americans in particular, the American market, which is probably our largest market from a tourism perspective, absolutely love, because, you know, they don't kind of get the history to the same kind of level over in the States and we do it in Scotland. And yeah, you know, as I say, probably from April through to October, that's our busiest season, and it's predominantly international tourists that are coming to stay with us during that time.
You've been going for about a year now, is that correct?
So we've been trading the hotel business for just coming up to a year now. So we managed to get the first full season in last year, which was great. Notwithstanding the wars that are breaking out around the world, this summer also looks particularly strong in terms of existing bookings. We've got more of the tourism trade signed up, more than we had last year. So we've got lots of tours kind of blocked out, and we're getting a lot more kind of you know, day-to-day kind of bookings coming through to plug the gaps around those tours.
And I think that's because people are starting to know where you are. Because I know a year ago, you took a big risk putting this hotel in the middle of King Street, because it's not in your face as you walk up King Street. You have to come into the building to see it. So it was a big risk, but it seems to have paid off, because you've just said you've got the advanced bookings, etc. So you say tours. Is that like from a tour company or one company, or is it various companies approaching you?
It kind of varies. So within the travel trade, as it's defined, Visit Scotland define it as travel trade. We have a number of different operators that you know, provide tours and organise tours for, they call it the FIT market, frequent individual traveller. So that could be couples, it could be families on a self-drive type tour. At the other extreme, we have lodge coach tours. Now, we're not big enough to take the lodge coach tours, because we've only got 15 rooms and suites, but we have that kind of middle section of tours where, you know, we'll bring you know, they'll bring a 16-seater coach or a 24-seater coach full of tourists from the US. They'll tend to be themed in some sort of way. So we had a guest on previously who talked about Scotland folk tours. And, you know, we've been very fortunate to look after those American guests that are here to predominantly listen to folk music and doing their kind of tour around Scotland over a 2-week period. And we get always, we're lucky enough to get them on the last night. They come here, they stay for the evening, they take the whole hotel about 30 to 40 times a year. And then they listen to some folk music with their favourite artists. And then, you know, we whisk them back to Edinburgh Airport and send them back to, you know, back to the States. So we have lots of themed tours like that this year, hiking tours, walking tours. We've got lots of nice walks around here in Stirling. So it's not just about the history and the heritage. We've actually got quite a lot to offer as it happens.
So if someone was looking to come to Stirling, because it's got lots of history, but it has got cycle tracks and walks, and we've got mountains down the road. We've even got a safari park down the road with lines and such like. What would you how would you recommend they contact you for a a Pacific tour, a Pacific room and type of room, etc.?
So, well, the obvious place to go to is our website, which is kingstreetaparthotel.com. So we have a couple of sections on that website about things to do while you're here in Stirling. As an example, we can custom build small tours for you if you were interested in that. We can help provide transport through our network of contacts that we have. If you want a minibus, for example, to go on a tour around the Forth Valley. We've got some interesting things coming up that we're going to announce at the Visit Scotland Connect event in mid-April. In terms of kind of how we can kind of build on the proposition. We started with a proposition last year called the Stirling Stay. The whole objective of the Stirling Stay, we've got material on our website that talks about this, but the whole idea is to try and get people to stay in Stirling for longer, or in the Forth Valley for longer, instead of just one night stays, as a transient kind of pass through to, get to the Highlands, for example, because there's so much to offer here, not just in Stirling, but in the Forth Valley. You can do everything from, visit the castle or the National Wallace Monument, or the Kelpies in Falkirk, or Doon Distillery. And whilst you're up in Doon, you can check out the some of the kind of films and that's associated kind of stuff up there. But then you can go and weave a tartan scarf at Radical Weavers. So as an American tourist, I'm sure you'd love to be able to do something like that and spend a couple of hours to do that. We can facilitate all of that with our digital concierge that you can get access to through our website, or giving Laura a call, our house manager, and she'll help you guide through what you can do to make the most of your time here in Stirling.
What a great location. I mean, you've just mentioned Doon Castle, Game of Thrones, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only 25, maybe tops 30 minutes from Loch Lomond and Balmaha. I mean, Stirling is the place to come. It is, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, but it kind of almost gets kind of passed through. You get a lot of visitors, as I mentioned earlier, nearly 5,000 visitors. 5 million visitors. But, how many of those visitors actually dwell and stay overnight and see what Stirling and the Forth Valley have got to offer? Very few of those. It's, there's so much to see here and so much to do here. In a very historic city, so hopefully more and more people will spend more time here going forward.
I definitely think they will, because you've had a great year by all accounts. Because I don't know, rumour control. I just keep looking at my phone and my media, and this little face pops up from Geordieland. Am I allowed to say that? Where are you from originally? Can I ask?
I'm from Gateshead.
Gateshead. Yeah. I know Gateshead. So basically, your picture keeps popping up, and your hotel keeps popping up, and your business, because you've been winning a few awards, haven't you?
We have, yeah. We've been fortunate this year. So started the year, we won a property developer award for the work that we've done here in number 45 King Street, and we've just recently been awarded the best accommodation in Stirling.
Wow, you must be proud.
No, it's fantastic. So hopefully we'll go from strength to strength and keep building.
Well, you've got a great team here, because from coming into this building, I've been in a few times, you're always welcomed in. As you mentioned earlier in an earlier podcast, you've got parking facilities, etc. What I love about the whole concept of this is, yes, you've got all the businesses, but it's your engagement with the people of Stirling. And I think that's fantastic, down to a local food beverage company. You buy your coffee beans from them. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've got quite an extensive community engagement plan. So food and beverages, obviously, we don't provide that on site, but we want to offer our guests the best coffee. So the local coffee roaster makes the coffee pods for us for the rooms, for the pod machines. He also provides the coffee beans for our business lounge, for the flexible workspace business that we have. As one example, we work with some local businesses to provide breakfast for our guests. because we're not in a position to be able to cook or provide breakfast on site because we don't have a bar, we don't have a restaurant. And then, the partnerships that we then have with all of the kind of local hosteleries around the city are pretty strong. So that's on the food and beverage side. But we extend our kind of community engagement further than that. So if you walk around our building, you'll see lots of artwork. That's working with local artists that actually have their studios in King Street. So, we've become an art gallery. So you can actually buy some of the paintings that you can see in when you're staying in one of our suites or one of our rooms. And you can get some kind of inspiration hopefully from some of the kind of murals and some of the work that that's been done by another artist based here in King Street as well. So
Do you know, it's fantastic. And you're getting visitors from abroad. Are the rooms themed? Do you have names for the rooms?
We have several of those rooms which are named, or several suites, and we'll probably increase that. So the naming of some of the rooms came about through some of the kind of charitable work that we're doing and some of the kind of giving back. So we've chosen 4 charities for this year. And one of them is the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders Trust, which is very much associated with Stirling Castle. It was the garrison for the Argyll and Sutherland Highlander Regiment for many, many years. So we've named one of our rooms after their mascot, the little Shetland pony called Crucken. So every time somebody physically stays in that room or that suite, we donate a percentage of that room booking to the trust, to the charity. And we've named 3 others. We've got Maggie's, so they're Maggie's Cancer. We've got Strathcarron, the hospice, and we've got the Coronation Room, which is named after the Church of the Holy Rood, the location where the only monarch outside of Westminster Abbey in the UK was crowned many, many years ago. So we give back to local charities for when people stay in those rooms, and we'll probably do more of that going forward as we expand our footprint.
Do you know what really amazes me, Neil? I spoke to you over the last few days about the various businesses, and you've got various businesses. How do these businesses all complement each other? What part does Aparthotel play in all the other stuff you do?
So, as I mentioned, the predominant market for us is the tourist sector. Okay, whether that's domestic tourism, people coming from other parts of the UK, or people coming from abroad, namely Americans and also kind of mainland Europe. So that's our kind of stable business, if you like, for the summer season, from just after Easter, typically through to the end of October. The shoulder season, however, so the months out with April to October, are particularly quiet time. Is a particularly quiet time in Stirling, unless there's other major events going on. That obviously kind of bring people to the area. So what we're very much pivoting to now is the corporate market, which is an all year round business. Okay. We're looking to see what the composite offers or the offers we can put together, which incorporate our events business with our co-working business / workspace and the hotel accommodation. And there's something called the MICE market: meetings, incentives, conferences and events. So that's going to be a big focus for us going forward, so we can try and bring more people to Stirling, out with the kind of main tourist season from April through October.
That makes sense, because they are lean months traditionally. However, I know the seasons are extending to the end of October, so you've got the working flexi spaces is the sort of the offices being rented. You then got the King's. I want to come back. You've got the Aparthotel. You've got the King's events section.
Actually, King Street Events.
Yeah.
We've got working flexi spaces, which is a combination of the private offices and the co-working hub. And we also have Studio King Street, so the recording studio. So again, not necessarily corporate, in some cases it is, but having people stay over and recording podcast or other audio video content in this recording studio here. So we have 4 businesses on site.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing, because literally you can offer accommodation, You can offer the place to do the work, to actually do normal work. They can come and do entertainment. And I mentioned in a previous podcast, you're actually the hotel. You mentioned earlier on you're going to get corporate people in, so literally they can bring their whole team to Stirling, do what they need to do, have a good time, have a good sleep in a boutique hotel, and literally find out a little bit more about our lovely city.
What we have here is 15 rooms and suites. So our suites are defined as a lounge area with sleeping area. We can accommodate a minimum of 4 people in our suites. We have 2 family suites that can accommodate up to 6 people. And then we have 5 rooms that will accommodate couples. We can configure the beds as a twin configuration if needed, particularly in our suites. We have small kitchenette areas with no cooking facilities, but amenities to be able to bring food and drink in. So we have crockery, glassware, etc. Sinks, coffee pod machines, fridges in all of our rooms. So we've done them to a particularly high standard. Certainly feedback we get on our reviews. And as we say, we work with local businesses to complement the offer that we offer in our hotel rooms.
Well, I can say I've seen the rooms. They're absolutely lovely, and I recommend if you're watching this podcast or you're listening, you need to get yourself to Stirling. You need to get along to Aparthotel. If you've got some work to do because you're away from home, we've got a wee office desk there that you can use. And if you want a bit of entertainment, we've even got an entertainment section here at 45 King Street. Neil, I've got one last question. I've got to ask you, where do you see this all going? What's going to happen to Aparthotel in the future? Is it just going to be a national chain?
We're just going to keep building a skyscraper here. No. If only we're in a listed building, they wouldn't allow us to do that. But watch this space. We are looking to expand sometime very soon, and we're looking to kind of build more of the same here in Stirling.
So when? Neil, so I've got to ask you this question. Aparthotel is great. You got the flexi office. It just does everything, this building, 45 King Street. I'm really impressed. And I have one last question. Where do you see all this going? Is it going to expand? Are you going to be international, national?
I don't think we're quite at that stage yet, but we'll probably build a skyscraper on the top of this trip now. What we've got, it's a listed building, so I'm sure that Stirling Council would never allow us to do that. But no, we are looking to expand more of the same here in Stirling. So high quality boutique accommodation, not a million miles away from number 45. That's all I can say to you at this stage.
It sounds really fantastic, but you do need to have a word with your marketing team, because when they asked me to come along, they sort of suggested a rider, and I said, well, can I have a bottle of Prosecco and a Marks and Spencer's, turkey stuffed sandwich? And I'm not really happy with a bottle of ginger and a Greg's pasty, to be quite honest.
We'll accommodate you next time.
I'm only kidding. Thank you.